Hello, everybody. Robert J. Morris here with Rick V. In the house, we got Thomas Deegan, who was the centerpiece of the conversation in the conference call that we covered last Friday on the podcast. Thomas, say hey to everybody.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Uh, Tom, explain to everybody. There's a lot of confusion about what the intentions are here. We'll go into different aspects later, but what was your major focus on what you're trying to accomplish?
The major focus was simply to return the government to be compliant with the contract that allows it to exist. That was it. That's simple.
Wow, that was a short show.
Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. That's all we wanted.
Yeah, and I listen to a lot of people go on about things, but it's one thing to complain. It's another thing to take action. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah, it really is. Well, okay, Tom. Okay, I know you've expatriated yourself. Could you maybe explain to people what expatriation and repatriation, like what it means and how to maybe go about it? Maybe just go with what it means first.
Well, what it means is normally you would leave. Expatriation is to leave a society or a country and go to another one. That's repatriation. And what I found was that all the countries were corporations, and so I expatriated from the corporate structure and just returned to God's green earth.
It's very similar to like the free man on the land movement and others of such.
Pretty close to that. Yeah, and I actually posted it. It's posted on the web. I can post a link over here.
Okay. And for those listening, any links that get mentioned here, we'll share them and throw them in the description box below the video for later retrieval. Yeah, no, it brings up an important thing, though. I mean, okay, so you're saying everything's corporate run. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, in these circles anyway, it's pretty common knowledge that everything is corporately run. But what's the significance of expatriating yourself?
Well, to me, it was more of a spiritual thing. I felt that this corporate structure being run under the global trust by the Pope is demonic in nature, and I did not want to be a part of that.
How did you discover that? Like in your years, how did you come to that realization? I guess
I started in family court. Go figure. That's where most of us start.
Oh wow.
Started researching how I was being screwed in family court, and started to find out that we didn't have courts really.
In what way? Like, were they self-serving? Were they?
Well, you couldn't call, like, at least the men in West Virginia really can't call witnesses. There were a lot of charges against me of abuse of my kids, and of course my kids love me, and I wanted to call to rebut her statements against me, because who else is going to rebut it other than the children? And I wasn't allowed to have the children testify. I couldn't bring in her violating her own restraining orders against me. I didn't have a voice, basically.
Wow. And now this is civil law, right?
Yes. Well,
as my understanding is that's civil law. Now in criminal law, you can rebut. You can cross-examine. You can do this in criminal law. Are you telling me that criminal law like supersedes like family and civil law?
Well, it's just made up. I mean, the at least in West Virginia, it's really bad. It's a sub-jurisdiction of statutory. It's almost criminal, but it's not quite. I mean, you can end up in jail from family court quite easily. I came very close a few times, but you don't have the opportunity afforded it here. The women, of course, they play the system. I was abused. You know, he yelled at me. Things that you can't really. It's hearsay. You know, he said, she said, basically. It's so hard to disprove what she's saying, but the burden is on the male to refute what she's saying. It's sometimes it's hard to prove a negative that it never happened. How do you prove a negative?
Right, right. Wow. So basically, it's it's a battle of words, really, and like there's no hard like forensic evidence unless it gets to criminal proceedings. There's no forensic evidence and what have you.
No, I mean at best you may have a police report. I mean, like if you actually, you
Right.
know, be
A
Peter.
or a
Yeah,
witness testimonial.
right. But most of the time, it's just the woman saying, you know, you were this or that, or you did this
You're a
to the
dick.
kids. Right? Yeah. But that's part of the social engineering to break up the family, which then breaks up the country.
Right, and that's been going on for like in terms of predictive programming. I mean, shit, that's been going on for ages now. Like
Correct. Yeah.
anyone who can't see that, like, you know, has got their blinders on. But
And
wow,
unfortunately, the time that I was going through it is the big time when, if they think you have some sort of problem, they want to put you to mental health. So, in order to see my kids, I was forced to go see therapists and psychiatrists, and then came the medicines, and they dope you up to where you're a zombie.
right,
That's the time we live in now, unfortunately.
right. Well, because you know, if they can't clinically diagnose a disease, then it's a condition, and conditions, you know, they have medications for conditions, right?
They have a medication for everything.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's
Sometimes 10, 15, because I was at 17 at one time, and that was to see my kids. Never had a problem before that. That was just part of the court said if you want to see them, you have to go here.
wow. If they can't,
Sorry, that was me.
oh, thanks, Rick. It happens in every show, even for a second, even if for a second. That's wild. But anyway, yeah, holy crap. So I'm just wrapping my head around. Okay, so we've got we've got the whole civil thing. You don't want to be a part of it.
No. All I wanted was to see my kids. I mean, I actually broke up with her. I couldn't take her anymore, and we had
I
been
meant
together.
I meant after the fact. I meant
Oh,
after, like you
well, no, because then we ended up in criminal court because
oh,
they kicked in my front door without a warrant, kidnapped me, and then searched my home without a warrant and found my medical marijuana.
right.
And we don't have medical marijuana here.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see. I see the textbook complication right there.
Right, yes. Because I've been in 2 car accidents. I've got chronic back problems, chronic back pain, chronic migraines, and it was much better than being hooked on the opiates.
Right.
Well, you know, and
And
that's
this is
funny.
back in
That's funny,
2010, right?
2010, yep.
Yeah.
2010.
And that's funny, you know, because like I have a friend of mine who, by the way, has passed away. He's passed away now. God rest his soul. Good old friend of mine, but he was in a car crash. Guy used to be a frontman for a band in my hometown, and he was in a car accident, broke his spine in 3 places. He was told he'd never walk again and what have you, but they had to induce a coma right after the accident. So he was in a coma for 3 weeks, if not longer. And he woke up. He was already addicted to the opiates. Like, he didn't even have any say, you know, in the matter, obviously.
Right.
I mean, the situation being what it was, he didn't have any say in the addiction process. So instead of weaning him off of it right away, they kept him on it. In fact, they gave him the maximum script possible.
And I was actually I did those at the same time I was going to the mental health facility. I was on opiates and muscle relaxers for the second car accident. So you had a combination of psychotropics, opiates, and muscle relaxers. That's a hell of a combination.
That's what we call a perfect storm.
Yeah, yeah. I was a walking zombie for about 4 years.
No kidding. Wow. Yeah. Well, this guy, well, being a frontman for a band, you could probably know that he knew people that most people probably don't, and he was in a world of narcotics at one point, and yeah, I mean, he just went down that rabbit hole and he never came back, and he's dead today, um, because of it. Now, one would just outright blame the medical community, which naturally I do, but on top of that, I mean, it wouldn't be that way if they wanted to help people. If they wanted to help people, they would have weaned him off of it before he went to the street and was able to sell his scripts to his friends. And then when he ran out, he had to buy it back from his friends. You know what I mean? They would have thought, you know, they would have thought differently if it wasn't about the money in pharmacology. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, it's well, that, and it's also about the slow kill. Remember,
Well,
they want to get your Cestui Que Vie account and your life insurance policy, and if that's not killing you directly, they didn't put a bullet in you.
that's right. And
Um,
if they can make a few bucks in the process while you're going down,
Absolutely, cash in, baby, cash in.
yeah,
It's the capitalist way, isn't it?
it
mhm.
really is.
Hey, Tom, do you
Yeah.
think you could update the audience here about what the status is now with this takeover of the government in West Virginia?
Well, on paper, it's already done. Physically, it's not going to happen with the group from last Monday's call, simply because it was a majority of foreign agents, and we're not looking for bloodshed or people to end up in jail needlessly. So we've called off the three gentlemen that did this paperwork have called off our support of anything happening. It's up to the foreign agents now to do whatever they want to do down there.
Right.
Right. So you were infiltrated with agents, provocateurs that were just stirring things up, and we're going to probably turn the entire thing into a big mess,
They
basically.
were
Right.
I think they were just going to leave you standing there alone in the street, thinking people are going to show up.
Well, I think a lot of them were. We had a lot of true people that were on the call, but they did get scared once they found out that it was infiltrated, and they didn't, same as me, they didn't want to put their friends in harm's way, and that was never what this was about. This was just giving our children an actual future,
Yeah.
and we wanted it to be peaceful, but we have to realize that they defaulted to dishonor themselves. By their silence, they admitted the crimes that we set forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I took one of your latest videos that you done, the one that you done with Phil, and kind of compress like the first 20 minutes in like 15, kind of squeeze it together, cut out, little moments there, and then made my commentary, and then I played out like the last 40 minutes of it and posted. And I saw a range of different reactions, and one of the ones that really irked me was when somebody said, "Oh, well, Thomas Deegan is under house arrest. How nice of him to go and expect everybody else to go out while he sits in the comfort of his own home." And I got pissed off because I'm like,
Well, actually, I was going because if we were taking down the structure, the house arrest was null and void. That was the whole point.
yeah,
I was going to be there with the other three men. We were all three going to be there.
along with everybody else, shoulder to shoulder.
Correct. Yeah.
That's right. And I want to. I kind of want to go. I'm gonna take a curveball, and I don't want to knock Pete Santilli at all. But what I do want to say is that he went to Phoenix to arrest McCain. Are you aware of what happened there?
No, I just know that he's an agent.
Yeah, really. Huh. Well, because like he was talking about how he wants to do it constitutionally, and my problem with that is that even a low level, uh, like someone who's been in the truth movement for a small period of time knows that the Constitution isn't worth the paper it's fucking written on.
Well, and it wasn't written for us. It's a contract that it's an employment contract that we offer, we the people. So look at it as we're the boss of McDonald's, and this is the employment contract. That's all it is. It's not for us. It's not meant to bind us in any way. We're the authority. We're the manager. It's to bind them, the employees, and it's been turned around like it's supposed to bind us. No, we have unlimited and unalienable rights. The only way our rights end is where the next person's begins.
Yeah.
And we've gotten away from that, I think, worldwide, really.
Actually, you know, I've seen the collapse of the system from an outsider's perspective looking in, and what I mean to say is that, like, it's always been fucked up here in North America from day one.
Oh, absolutely.
But this model has taken shape and infected and grown all throughout Europe, all throughout Eurasia, all throughout Africa, all throughout everywhere. Australia, I don't want to leave any continent untouched here, but yeah,
it's like a cancer.
It's everywhere. It's like a cancer.
Yeah.
And, you know, and this is the kind of shit we were talking about back in the late 90s when globalization, you know, was like first kind of a buzzword, you know, like it really didn't become a buzzword until what, like 94, 95, I guess.
Somewhere through there, yeah.
Around there somewhere. And people are like, oh, it'd be great. You know, people are all like, oh, one world government would be awesome. Well, you know what? In a good world, yeah, a one world government would be awesome, but not if it's run by a bunch of like corporatocracy like scumbags. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
It's for profit now, because really what you have is you have a global trust, these governments were set up to administrate the duties of that global trust, and unfortunately you have criminals come in and find ways to work around that, so they go ahead and they get in debt, and then they turn it over to another service. I call them service corporations, because that's all they're really doing, is supposed to be servicing the contract, providing those services, and it's a way for the bankers to get you in debt and make you believe you're free because, oh, you have a constitution, or oh, this. It's PR. It's propaganda. It means nothing to them.
Yeah. Okay, that was actually a decent segue into the contract of our lives, the straw man, the birth registration process.
Which wouldn't be bad if they allowed you access to your Cestui Que Vie account as is required as a beneficiary. You have the rights to access that, and unfortunately they've closed you off from that access.
Well, they've obscured people. I mean, you still have access to it, right? Correct?
Well,
not directly.
Normally, when you find the modern day, that day's way of getting in there, they'll change it the next day.
Right.
There's very few that have ever gotten true access to it, because there's enough money in each of ours to where you never have to work or worry again. But they're eating it up, these government contractors. You know, they'll give you the commercial charges, and in court, that's really all that's happening, is that they're charging the trust, and you're being duped into thinking that you're the trustee and responsible to pay for it, and if you don't pay for it out of the trust, you pay for it out of your own pocket. That's trust law. When in fact, you're the beneficiary. You don't have to do anything. You look at the trustee and go, handle this. I mean, why am I being talked to?
Well, that's why people pay by value. There's a big thing on the internet. I saw probably 1 million videos on this, and like, you know, with varied degrees of success and what have you. But paying by value against your straw man.
Yeah, it's hit or miss with it. It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
There's because they're criminal. Remember, these guys are criminals that you're asking to follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way, does it, with a criminal?
No, no.
By definition, they don't follow the law, so they're criminal.
You know what? I'll tell you this, is that criminals that I've known throughout my years that I've met here and there in life, I trust them more because at least they say they're criminals.
Correct. Yes. I mean, I have to agree with you there.
Like, at least they're honest about it. I mean,
when they're going to rob me, they're telling me they're robbing me. They're not saying,
yeah.
I'm here to help and reaching around the back end.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
A little more honor.
The guy says, "Give me your wallet." You're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I understand. I'm being robbed.
But instead, no. These guys, they'll use all kinds of different kinds of documentation. They'll drag it out over 5 years, and all they had to do is say, "Just give me your wallet." But they'll just drag it out. But
make it legal.
Or at least make it sound sexy, so you go on with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give everybody a hint here. If they're having problems understanding what's happening in government, there was a wonderful gentleman from the 1830s to the 1880s named Lysander Spooner.
Spooner, yeah.
If you've never read some of his, what he wrote was just a bunch of short articles, and it's compiled into five volumes. If you go there and just read a few of them, you'll start to understand the hypocrisy of government and why we don't actually need it. Other than for certain things, like you may want to come together as a group of people to have a road in your county or a bridge, or you may want water services. So you need a group of people to come together to make that happen. The rest of it is just about them enslaving you and revenue.
Right. Yeah, they'll tax everybody, even though only 10% need the bridge.
Correct.
Yeah.
You can break all law down to two things. That's contract law and maxims. And if you can learn those two things right there, and we have 2 documents on HUDOC. I'll get you the link here in a little bit. A total of 32 pages. If you can read 32 pages, you can actually operate in the world, even with government, and be able to win almost every time, just based upon those 32 pages. It's very simple.
Well, I've heard a lot of things about just going to court and fighting off, not necessarily bills, not things that you incur that like you use. Like I'm brass tacks. Like if I use it, I intend to pay for it.
Correct.
But I'll give you an example. I moved to British Columbia. In the first couple of months I was here, I had to apply for unemployment insurance, or actually continue. I had to carry over my unemployment insurance over from Ontario. So what happened is I had to wait a month. So they had to sign me up for welfare, and then they hand me BC Medical, and I didn't ask for that. I didn't even sign papers saying I want BC Medical. But it was part of the package, right? So I got signed in. I got subscribed, if you would. And that was 4.5 years ago. Now they think I owe $3,600 for BC Medical, $60 a month every month.
Sounds like a scam to me.
Yeah, I didn't even ask for it. Like I'm like, I didn't sign for this. They just keep sending me a bill. I think I went to the doctor's office once, and I probably paid that in taxes I buy my cigarettes with. You know what I mean? Like, give me a break.
And I'm going to go ahead and post here the link to the law documents because at least here in the States, it's a military tribunal, and you can't show up. Otherwise, you give them jurisdiction. So there are documents that we formulated that I formulated as part of my criminal case for growing medical marijuana.
Right.
That people can use. It's up to them. It's free. I've never charged for them, so I'll post the link over for that too.
Okay, great. And yeah, guys, for those just tuning in, all the links that get talked about here, we will post in the description box here on the YouTube page for it. Yeah, no, I'm beside myself on this issue. Like when it comes to like I don't even know how to phrase it properly. It's kind of like a confusion of what your responsibility is versus what their responsibility is, and then who's accountable for what. Do you follow?
Yeah, I do. And the great thing here is that what they're taking you into court for, at least in the States, is malum prohibitum, statutory law. And so if you attack that from a contract angle, which these law documents do, they don't have a contract with you, and so it's not applicable.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great thing. You just brought up a great point. If you could tell the listeners what a contract specifically needs in order to be lawful.
Yeah, well, let me do it according to, well, because I have this. I would like to keep in line with what we have posted here. So let me pull it back up real quick, because I have a slightly smaller version that I use, which is a little older in law, but this is more of the modern day contract law.
Right. Now, afterwards, mind maybe stating the difference between the two.
Okay, so what you really have is someone offering or proposing something, and then you have the other party accepting it.
Right.
And that forms an agreement. And it's got to be something that is lawful. You know, you can't put out a murder contract. That's not a valid contract. It's not enforceable.
Right. That goes against like common law.
Correct. And you both have to be of age. You both have to have consideration. You know, if I hire you to mow my lawn, you mow my lawn, I'm getting the service of you mowing the lawn, you're getting the service of payment. You both come out with something. I may have gotten a better deal, but you signed into it.
Right. Hey, I just want to back up just a quick spot there when you said of age. Now, there's no definitive age. It's the age as agreed upon or voted in by the state or by the community that you're in, correct?
Well,
or is there an actual age?
Well, at common law, it could be anywhere from 15 to 21. Most states, it's 18, or most countries, let's say, it's 18.
Right.
So it depends on the law form you're looking at.
Right. Mm-hmm. The point I'm trying to make when I say that is that it's subjective to where you are and who your government is.
Correct.
I'm saying that to the listeners out there is that everybody lives somewhere different. Some countries you can drink a beer if you can see over the counter. Other places you got to be 19 when you can go die for your country at 17. So, you know.
I like the counter rule myself. I like that counter rule.
Yeah, me too.
The rest of it would be it's gotta be certain. It's gotta be a meeting of the minds. You both have to agree what it means.
Right. And that's proved how.
Well, normally you would want it in the simplest language possible. I go by keep it simple, stupid, kiss. And that way there really isn't a way that you could say, well, hey, I didn't agree to mow your lawn. You know, I agreed to come look at your lawn. Mm-hmm. You know, so you want to make the wording as simple as possible. The greatest contracts are very short, very short. If it's a long contract, someone's trying to screw you.
And when the final agreement is made, how is it like ratified? How is it set in place?
Autographs by both parties or multiple parties, depending upon what's contained within it.
Right, right. So, I mean.
So a lot of your
So when I got told I had BC Medical and didn't agree on it or sign for it, they basically forced a contract on me without reciprocation.
Well, and
Well,
in commercial law, there's what's called tacit or quasi contracts where you're accepting a benefit and they consider that consent,
Oh, by shutting up and not saying anything,
or by using the service.
or by using the service, right? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with that.
That's
Okay.
that's not a lawful contract though. That could
Right.
be challenged.
okay. I've seen things where there's two different kinds of contracts that might apply to you, where one would apply to you as a person, a man with arms and legs, as you, or hands and legs, as you put it, and then there's also the contract, the corporate you,
Hey, what do you
where
call
you
a guy
guys,
with no arms and no legs floating in the lake? Bob.
Bob,
Screwed.
Go ahead.
Bob.
My bad.
Anyways, well, there's a corporate you, right? The corporate
Uh,
you, because you're a dead entity according to the, as far as the government is concerned. The moment you have a birth certificate, you're a dead entity, and you are that corporation that they create in your name. Is that not correct?
well, partially. I mean, really, you're the Cestui Que Vie Trust. The person is the Cestui Que Vie Trust. So you could look at it. I know in the States it's the Cestui Que Vie Trust. There's also a corporation of some kind, and then there's the war name because we're enemies of the state here.
Yeah. Well, now, yeah.
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 I've been dying to ask you this, and this is jumping way ahead, but I just like, what is their declaration of war? Because we didn't make it on them; they made it on us a long time ago, and I get that. Do you have a definitive idea? I'm not. If you don't,
Well, I can say only for Americans I can. I mean, worldwide I don't know, but Americans it was the Emergency Banking Relief Act of 1933.
yeah, after the Depression, right?
Yes, they amended the clause in the 1917 Trading with the Enemy Act to subject Americans to that act, and that's where the registration, the licenses, all came into play.
And that's when they started backing our asses with gold, and then turning around in '67, I believe, and then killing the gold standard.
Nixon, I think 71 or 72 actually.
Was it 71 or 72? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm somewhere around there. You're
I knew
close.
I was within a year or so.
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah. Anyway, that said, let's get into the insurance policies here, because you were saying, okay, in the big mix-up in the midst of all of this refugee shit that's going on now. I mean, we're no stranger to refugees leaving a war-torn society. We're kind of long in the tooth, so I'm sure we've all seen it happen numerous times. Most recently, I remember the Kosovars and what have you, and that whole shenanigan. Now we got all these Syrian refugees going around. How does that impact this whole insurance thing? You were saying something about, in the phone call when you explained it, you said something along the lines of that everybody is backed by the Vatican with their birth or their movement to another country. How does that work?
So basically, each country is just a different administration of the trust. And so if you were to move from one country to the next, your Cestui Que Vie account and policies all follow you.
Right.
And really what's happening at the highest levels right now, which is the Pope is coming in to sign off on this weekend, is the territories, or we call nations, are being redivided, and the assets of those are being redivided as well. And so you see these people being moved around. That's because someone's the winner and someone's the loser. I call it the game of Risk. It's like the old board game of Risk is what's happening behind the scenes.
You know, Game of Thrones is a good show. Just joking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so, that's another topic for another show.
Right. So, as you move to another country, and it's also part of social engineering because they want to break up the customs of that people. They want the and I don't want to sound racist because I'm not. I love all people, but they want the interbreeding, the mixing of the races. So then you're screwing with the customs of a people, and that changes society.
Back home in Hamilton, we used to call that whitewashing everyone.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, no offense to the Greeks.
Right, but it's all part of the social engineering to break up the families,
Yeah.
And to keep everyone from coming together, because we're all one people of the earth, and we're actually against a few thousand that are controlling it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, first they break up the families, and now they got the whole LGBT thing. Now nobody's even comfortable with who they are. I mean, people don't even get along with themselves anymore.
No, you're battling yourself at the end. That's exactly. They're battling yourself at this point. I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, it's diabolical.
If you're evil, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, you got to hand it to these guys. These guys are brilliant at what they do.
Yeah, and they cover their asses on every single level. Like,
correct.
It's horrible. So, what, in your opinion, would be the first step in trying to combat such an entity?
Well, we went back to the biblical roots, because biblical law is the highest form of law on earth at this point. And so we just looked at it and we said, okay, how were we to remedy problems according looking at that? And it was you go to the person that's harming you and you say, hey, you're doing this to me, and I just need you to do this to remedy that, and we'll have no problem. We can go back to being brothers again. And so that's what we did here in West Virginia, was we just petitioned all three branches and said, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. Right. And here's what you can do to fix it, and then we'll be happy again. We'll all be friends. And of course, they didn't answer. And the next step would be you then take it to the magistrate, and in this case, it would be the court. So we took it to the court that had original jurisdictions for writs, because we wanted writs of mandamus. We wanted them to be commanded to do certain things.
Right.
And that was our Supreme Court of Appeals in our state. That was the original jurisdiction for writs. So then we took the petition, which was affidavit in form, and said, okay, well, you've admitted these facts now. So we start off with 14 facts right out of the gate. Their own admissions. This is what they're doing. And then we took the contract, which was the Constitution, and said, well, here's where you're violating. And then we brought in some more of their codes, rules, and regulations to say, well, this is also where you're violating.
Right.
So we took their own admissions from their own codes and said, look, you're violating the contract with your own words.
Yeah, and you know, Noam Chomsky, I don't agree with 100% of everything he says, obviously, because he had a lot of things to say. But one of the things I do agree with is that segregation of language is how people get separated from the controlling faction to those who are being oppressed. And I mean, segregation of language happens across the board. They monetize off segregation language. That's how you have your colleges, your universities. They
Correct.
Create languages, and in order for you to learn this language, you have to pay X amount. And then lawyer can't talk to a doctor can't talk to a plumber can't talk to
the fry guy at McDonald's.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, precisely. And you know, and that same segregation of language, though, is why the common folk feel like they can't fight for themselves.
Correct. And I call it legalese and or double speak is what I call it, because they use the words that we think of from our common usage amongst each other and completely flip it on its head to mean something completely else. And so that's double speak, really, to me. That's double speak.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really technically fraud.
Yeah, and then they go and throw in like old English with your here tos and theys and thous and shit, and then next thing you know,
sprinkle a little bit of Latin in there.
Yeah. Oh, prima facie, yeah.
Yeah. Sprinkle a little bit in there, and you've got everybody running around, and they've got to go to a lawyer. You know. For
prima facie, please check your Wikipedia source. I'm sure they haven't fucked that one up.
Right. So we just used their own words, their own codes, their own statutes, their own case law against them, and said, look, this is what you've said. You've admitted we're the enemy. You've admitted you're military in nature. You've admitted this already in your own stuff. And we presented it to them. And our principles and authorities was some biblical scripture and about 400 maxims of law and equity.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around how somebody could be empowered, just a regular everyday Joe, how they could be empowered to take their, not just their name back, and deny access to their straw man, maybe cut it down and burn it up if they choose so, and just feel empowered to be a human being of God's creation, a man with arms and legs.
And by the way, that's their wording, not ours. They
Right.
made that up to put a lien on us.
Right.
So we used it against them.
Well, what they did is the opposite of what they've done to us. And let me digress. Think about it this way. Look at the freedom movement in the 70s. You know, we had all kinds of freedom movements. Well, we didn't have freedoms technically until they ratified and defined what those freedoms were. But the problem with that is now they're legislated. Now they're put into a definition, and with bureaucracy, you can nail it down and then take it away just as easy. Once it's defined, you can vote on it and remove that shit. So, that said, I mean, you understand what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, how can we turn it around? How can we turn it around and do the same thing to them? Because, I mean, shit, there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them.
Absolutely.
And I think the biggest, sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off, I just want to just say that, like, there's so many more of us than there are of them, but a lot of people feel like, well, what the fuck can I do? Oh, how am I going to do? Oh, there's nothing I can do. Somebody else will figure it out. Oh, these problems are bigger than me. I've heard every damn thing in the book. Leave me alone. I just want to live my life. You know?
Well, that's apathy. That's apathy.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's also it's apathy, but it's also a little bit of what do you call it when you just kind of give up? It's like I'll just let somebody else take care of it, because as long as it doesn't affect me right now, right here, then it doesn't exist.
Well, Hitler used that strategy beautifully, didn't he, in his country?
Huh. Yeah, he did. But how do you feel that somebody could empower themselves to kind of just like realize that they are a person with arms and legs, even though they might not use them, but they have the ability to just be a person combined with other people and kick these sons of bitches out?
Well, depending upon your jurisdiction, I would say all the governments have been usurped fraudulently, and as such, if you put that forth and say, look, the contract's broken, let's say a bill in equity for specific performance of contract, and that's one of the angles that we chose in this, which was we said just perform according to the contract exactly, and we're fine.
Right.
But you have to make it known. You have to put the issue out there. It has to be out there for it to be addressed by them. So you have to say it to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's by petition, by complaint, by affidavit, just get it out there to them. And then you need to take that to other people in your community. It needs to be a grassroots movement from the bottom.
Are you telling me? Are you telling me that people actually have to get out of their houses, their domiciles, their apartments, their shoe boxes, and actually get out and talk to other people in their community?
Well, that's as hard as that may seem to do now.
Oh my God.
That's really what you have to do.
Oh, I can see people are already getting the sweats. Oh,
Yeah.
that's scary. Oh.
They're waiting for a hero.
Look.
Well, you are your hero. There is no one coming to save you. They're just
right.
coming to enslave you.
That's right.
Right, and it's a matter of whether or not you're just gonna wait to the last minute. You know, this is funny because I'm hearing all of my parents' remarks. Oh, you always wait to the last minute for everything. Now here I am. I'm proactive and I'm a weirdo.
Right. Yeah. It's a grassroots movement, and you know, if you get enough people together, form a council in your neighborhood. Like I live in a neighborhood of about 100 houses. What if we all decided, you know what, screw our county. We're going to have our own little community here, and we'll have our own venue jurisdiction law firm. We'll take care of our own problems. What would they do?
I really like how you use that term. You just said in 100 houses.
Yeah.
You're from House Deegan, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And I just want people to hear that. I mean, like, since you've expatriated, you've obviously given up your straw man.
Yeah, I've actually, through my expatriation, I claimed it, accepted and continued the trust, and said I'm the beneficiary and I'm the manager of it, and I'll tell you, the trustee, what to do with it.
Right. And a lot of people need to realize this, man. Like,
you know, the reason they enslave you is because they assume by default they claim you're incompetent.
Right.
Okay. And by claiming you're incompetent, they can then, as trustee, do things that they want to do, whether it's for your benefit or not. So you have to become competent.
It's a bit of a double-edged barb, too, isn't it? Because they're saying, oh, you're incompetent, but people don't understand it, so they are incompetent, so they're kind of being laughed at and ridiculed at the same time, and also being served into subservience. Well,
they're laughing at you because you don't know, but you should know. They've dumbed us down. That's a serious problem.
And if they did know, do you think they'd be incompetent?
Correct. It's a catch-22 almost with them.
It almost, yeah. No, I totally see it. That's why I said it's a double-edged barb. It's like, ha ha.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
And so I actually have the Pope in default and dishonor since 2013 because he's failed to recognize what I've told him to do, which was to close out the. See, the Cestui Que Vie Act of 1666 says when you come before someone in authority, meaning a judge, police, whatever, someone in authority, that would be government, and you say, look, I'm alive, they're supposed to revert the trust to you and it dissolves.
Right.
So they're violating the Cestui Que Vie Act and trust law.
Now, I'm not sure, I've done a little bit of research, not a whole lot, but isn't the Cestui Que Vie Act a lot like insurance drawn on slaves?
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way, in a simplistic way, yeah.
Yeah, like it's very similar, like in its approach, and also in the way that it's actuated.
Correct.
See, like, and this is going out to the listeners. I mean, guys, girls, all you have to think about this. You know, you got to think about how you're being manipulated into not being manipulated. You know, you're being fooled into thinking that the government is the only game in town, yet they're not. And everything that they're doing is completely and totally tripe. There's nothing there. Like just like the Federal Reserve, just like you know, the money is practically fictitious. It just exists as ones and zeros. So do the laws that govern you, because it goes right back to maritime and common law.
Well, they have you in admiralty, basically. You're
admiralty.
You're underwater. Yeah, you're underwater.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the basis from which we oozed out from, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is just Talmud, which is Codex Hammurabi. Which is actually what the Pope is returning us to, by the way, when he leaves the UN.
Yeah, I just caught wind of a parent bench warrant for him, eh?
Yeah, it's been out there for a while, but he's being treated as the savior of the earth, and so I think he's probably got 10,000 around him securing him. Good luck getting to him without an army.
Well, and this is just it, though, is like Interpol. I mean, I pirated hundreds of VHS movies when I was younger, and Interpol still hasn't come after me for those, so I don't think they're very effective at doing shit.
They're worthless. They're worthless.
Yeah. But I mean, it's food for thought, though. At least somebody's got the balls to draft up a bench warrant. It just means that we need numbers to affect and enforce the you know, the action of what their crime entails. I mean, you know, if we took it back to public stonings, I bet you there'd be a lot less crime.
There would be. There would be.
Right? I mean, it's a deterrent. Right now, I mean, it's almost sexy to be a criminal.
Especially if you're wearing a three-piece suit.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, so going back to the movement that you started. These petitions that got signed. I want to get back on point now. I just kind of wanted to set the stage for everything else here. Now, with these petitions, though, we've got 5 states in total out of 50. So we got Alabama, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and Virginia, which you guys started out. These petitions have been filed, but there's no way to enforce them.
Well, they were just a petition, so we weren't looking for enforcement. We were looking for them to do what they should do, which is correct their actions.
Yeah.
Or inactions.
Which I mean, you could hold your breath until you're blue in the corner, right?
But we didn't expect them to anything from it. We were just following a true law process that anybody could understand and is actually superior in jurisdiction and venue and law form to theirs.
Right, and see if they would counter with another move. It's like a game of chess, kind of.
Almost, yeah.
No, I understand completely. Now, had this, well, not had, but if this were to, or had it have happened that other states had also done similar actions, or provinces here in Canada, or other state countries and countries in Europe and what have you all across, I mean, if these things take place, I mean, they would just literally be pieces of paper with fingerprints on them, sitting in a file somewhere.
But it also lets them know that the people are paying attention, see? So let's say we had the 3 of us in West Virginia do it, but then we had 100 other groups of people do it. The government takes notice someone's paying attention to what we're doing here.
Right.
And the more people you can have do it, the more likely you are to get them to at least change somewhat.
Right. Well,
so they laughed at the 3 of us because there's only 3 of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that. I really honestly, Tom, I really honestly thought about that. And that was one of the things that just kept on rattling through my brain the entire time. I listened to the entire phone call. Even the travesty, like, through the last half hour, which is just nothing but you got bombarded by troll activity. It was horrible. And I was just thinking, though, but, wow, like, you know, here's these guys. They're trying their damnedest just to affect some kind of a reaction from, you know, Joe Public and get some support, get some backing.
Correct.
And, like, I mean, it could be you 3, it could be me, Rick here, it could be my it could be my buddy in Ontario, it could be, you know, thing is that, you know, what do you think it would take to convince people? Now, this you know, you don't even have to answer this because I already kind of know the answer. But, like, what do you think it would take for people to, like, go, oh yeah, I totally support that. A better government, a better world, a better future. That's awesome. Let's do it. But, like,
well, the problem is that this was not this was designed to give people the education, but what we were looking to actually do was to give the militias who had complained for years that they had no leg to stand on to affect change, we were giving them a lawful leg to stand on. And we thought they would welcome it.
Yeah, but that's like me starting up a search engine and then getting bought out by Microsoft. Like, the second any of these guys, like, actually make a move, the next, you know, the next level or the next stage of the beast would just go, hey, I'll give you a paycheck. And they're going to be subservient.
Right, and we looked at Bundy Ranch, and that's what I looked at actually, was to see that, for the right cause, you can come together in sufficient numbers and you can affect change, because they did. This man is a corporate slave with corporate land, does not have a allodial title, and he lost his case, and they came out in there and said, no, you can't take his stuff even though he lost.
Right. Well, why? Okay, here's what I don't get. Why the numbers there at the Bunny Ranch and not with what we are all trying to accomplish and what you were trying to do there in Virginia?
Probably because they felt that that man's life was in danger because they had guns on him. But look, I mean, I've had SWAT run up in on me 3 times with them 16s.
Yeah.
I watch my children's generation get murdered on YouTube, and people do nothing. They just sit there and film it, and nobody does anything. Why they went there? I guess they felt because it was the BLM and they had some sniper somewhere. I'm not sure why they went there and not here. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well, that's just it, because it doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, unless it was an elaborate scheme, I guess, to, in essence, get it out of people's systems. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, yeah, you did your support for King of Country. It didn't work out. Okay,
And that
well,
may have been it. That may have been it.
like, I mean, hey, I got 10% paranoia going on in my head as a truther, and I constantly think things are schemes. Like, I don't vocalize everything that I think, right?
Right.
I look at things. I go, oh, this might be this might be that. But I mean, like, what I just don't get is, like, if you had like 100 people, and you said, okay, one lineup is to jump in a pot of boiling water, and the other lineup is to jump into a pot of frozen salted water or ice cold water. Just take your pick, and then watch them go like lemmings. But the thing is that they don't see a third option.
Right.
Do you follow? Like, I mean, like, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, can't people see that? Like, no, both of those suck. Like, what the,
Right.
you know? I got to talk to management. I got to, I got to talk to people. What the hell's going on here? And people don't. It's like, I'll take the cold water, thank you. Idiot. I don't mean that they're idiots. It's just like, I just get mad. I get frustrated when I think about people and the decisions they make because they're blinded by, now mind you, they're bombarded and mind controlled and brainwashed by the mass media. Like, once you turn it off, you can't turn it back on, but it's hard to turn it off. Correct. I get that. And so many people just, like, can't escape. I think maybe that's possibly the biggest hurdle. Like, everything from like the mind control of the mass media, and I think it's the illusion of choice. I think people have an illusion of choice going down.
Yeah. Facebook or Twitter, American Idol, or Dancing with the Stars. There's your choices. That's the only choices you really have.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, people will never put up with not feeling like they have some choice.
Oh, they went crazy on Monday when Skype went down. I thought the world ended that day.
I was like, shit, Skype's broken. Oh, well.
Yeah, next one. Yeah.
That was my reaction. I was like,
it's still got Facebook, Google Plus, Twitter.
In Ontario, I don't know, about 6-7 years ago, the Canada Post went on strike. I was like, well, no news is good news.
Right, yeah. It's all how you look at it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's the important thing. It is how you look at it. I mean, people have to start looking at things in the perspective where, like, you got to see what's benefiting you and the long-term aspect of how it benefits you. I mean, it's ironic, is that these assholes in power, these criminals, these blood-sucking, baby blood-drinking, like, maniacs, they're out there.
Psychopaths.
But they're heralded as leaders. They're heralded as, and we've created a double standard for society. Like actually we've basically developed ignorance into part of our daily ritual.
Yeah.
It's like saying, "Oh, I'll look the other way as long as I can go home, take care of my kids, pay my rent on time, and not be disturbed. I don't care." And it creates apathy.
Yes. And one day it'll happen to you, and then you'll be like, "Why is nobody helping me?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's too late.
Well, I mean, when they're sitting there with a food tray in their hand in the FEMA camp food in the child line, they'll be like, "What exactly did I do to get here?"
And I'll testify they don't want that FEMA camp food because it's got to be as bad as prison.
It's probably worse.
I don't know if you could get much worse. I wouldn't have fed what they fed me to my dog.
I've heard that. And
when you got a whole bunch of people, all contained in one spot, captive audience, they can feed you what they want. They can experiment on you. They can do whatever they want. They're experimenting on us already with like their chemtrails and everything else that they're doing to us. And this stuff that they're putting in food.
Good point.
Already.
That's a good point. I mean, it's
and that's exactly what you have happening in there, by the way. In the water and the food, they are experimenting with certain ratios of drugs to see how to calm and placate you the best.
Yeah. Well, even MK Ultra experiments where a lot of them were done on prison inmates.
Oh, absolutely. And it is psychological in there because I think we had 800 inmates there, and we had, I think, at any one time, 17 guards.
Right.
So they have to psychologically control you somehow, and it really was through the food. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's the only way they could.
Well, it's I hate to misuse the term, but it's like a shepherd, right? You know what I mean? Like like one to control the many, and it is diabolical. I mean, like if you smack every single one of them on the nose, they don't want to be smacked on the nose anymore.
Right.
So they're going to do things to prevent that from taking place again, and the shepherd wins.
I mean, there were many days they would take a meal away from me because I wouldn't sign their contracts to come in. I wouldn't sign their medical consent, and so they would do little things. No shower. I didn't have clean clothes for 21 days. I had to wear the same clothes, just a mat, no cover. They did little things to try to get you to conform.
Right.
Unfortunately, with me, it just wasn't going to work. I just started suing them in their prison court there. I just started suing them. And that didn't make them very happy either.
Which is a funny irony, because what I find is that like most of the well-educated people came out of jail because they actually put books there. Like, like they will give you access to guns. They won't give you access to knives or sharp or pointy things. But what they will do is give you books, and it's like what, you think they won't read them?
Right. I actually beat the warden in his own court, the warden's court in there, and got all my rights restored. Your prison rights restored without having to sign their contracts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can only imagine what that would have been like. Actually, that could have. I can imagine like a kangaroo court kind of a setup in those.
It was one of the guards. He was the judge. Luckily, the guards liked me because I was very sociable. And
one of the guards was a judge. See, right there. You have to have an unbiased party, so already they're in breach of
due process. But you have no due process there. You have no due process anywhere.
Yeah.
You're an enemy combatant in America, so you are an enemy. Period.
Yeah. I mean, right now, You know, here we are, all we're just trying to bring back real journalism. We're trying to bring back what journalism used to be, you know, in whatever way, shape, or form we can. We're trying to do that, and we're being treated as basically as combatants. Like, we're being treated as domestic terrorists, basically. Like,
I mean, look at poor Dean Clifford. You know who Dean Clifford is?
I, it's escaping me. I know the name though. Remind us all.
Big in Canada, he's fighting the Queen in their courts using trust law, and
Right.
they're screwing with him for years now, years.
Is that Church of the Universe?
I don't think so. No.
No, that's another guy. Dean Clifford. Yeah, the name is.
He's
like,
the guy. He's
just-
the Freeman
just
of the
straight-
land guy.
Oh, Freeman
Yeah,
of the
just
land.
straight
Yeah.
trust law. Straight trust law.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings up another question too. The whole free man on the land thing. That's a pretty big movement there in the United States, correct?
Well, not really. I would say more sovereign. They like to use the word sovereign because we have some case law early on in the country that said we were the sovereigns of the land, the kings and queens. So it's the same thing, basically.
Yeah, it again, like most things, is buried in bureaucracy and bullshit, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, like here is a different story. Like in the United States, I mean, yeah, you know, renegades travel across the pond, they come over, and then the British come chasing after them. Well, we've always been a British outpost. Like, just because we changed our names to Canadians doesn't mean that we're not British. And I mean, we were only granted autonomy. Maybe that's where I got 67 from. I think it might have been 67 when we got our autonomy or something. I don't know. I have to look that shit up. But anyway, but it wasn't even real autonomy because I was in the military. I joined in '91, and I still swore an oath of allegiance to the Queen of England first, then the
Right.
Prime Minister, and then you know, local law enforcement and what have you. It was and red flags flew up in my head as when I was like listening to the "God Save the Queen" while doing my oath. Yeah. But I mean, that was what was going through my head. I was like, "Holy crap!" You know, like I'm pledging an oath to the Queen, which means that my country's not coming first.
Right.
You follow? Like, so I'm
Right.
like, yeah. But I mean, here, yeah, I could see the free man on the land thing taking effect because of common law, which actually is British in its origin, I believe. And
Well, the corrupted is, yes.
yes, and that's the only thing that they can adhere to here. So that's, you know, that's kind of sketchy, doesn't it sound? But going back to, that's why I wanted to ask about that over there because I want to know the difference between the two, because like in order for someone here in Canada to take back your name is extremely difficult. To take back your straw man. In fact, they even screwed things up for us even worse because 2 years ago, it was maybe even a year ago, it was Comer versus the Bank of Canada, and they released all debts. Not our debts, just the debts that they signed off on.
Right.
Which aren't the same damn thing, because I still owe my student loans. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, but it's almost as if they signed off, I guess, in bulk a lot of that, you know, and it makes it a lot more difficult for us to do such. And I don't know if they saw it coming. That's why they made that move. I have no idea. I'd have to do some more research on that, to be honest with you. But I just want other people to get like some kind of a starting point, some kind of an idea of where to. The people listening, they all have different skills, and I'm kind of leaving it to them. Somebody will have like a aha moment, say, hey, we can look into this and figure that out and do this, and that's kind of why we're doing this here today.
Yes, and I mean what we've done here can be replicated anywhere. You just may have to change the violations for your specific area. I mean, here we were looking at the military aspect because that's what it is.
You're talking about the petitions that you filed.
Yeah, Yeah, even the complaint. If you remove the specific violations, it could be made applicable, and you can use the same maxims and biblical law there within it.
Right.
We tried to make it as much of a template as we could for anyone to go in there and just change a few things and make it work.
Right. Mr. Hudak there, he sent me for the Canadian listeners out there, I've got a link to a gentleman who's in Owen Sound, and I'm going to speak with him and find more information out for Canadians who want to pursue this and maybe file grievances and breach of contract with their own cities, or sorry, provinces and their members of parliament and what have you. I guess oath keepers would be the word to use, eh?
Well, yeah, that's double speak there.
I know. That's why I hesitated to use it. But that said, yeah, I mean, look, guys, everyone listening, this isn't about, oh, Thomas Deegan is uprising against Virginia. No, this is about, we need to uprise against this. It's a puppet government now, and it's a puppet government now because it's been usurped by the powers. You name any one of the 13 families responsible. I don't care. It just sucks. We can use their own tools against them while we have them. We won't have them for long, because when things go and fall into a state of martialism, all laws are null and void because they have the guns.
Correct.
Period.
That's right.
And
once they have all the guns, that's it.
And I hate to lay guilt trips on people and say, oh, well, if you're ignorant, ignorance is an excuse and you're complicit in their crimes. Look, just look around. Before you go and say every truther's, just looking for attention, just look at the points that they're trying to make and then do your own research. People hate doing research, by the way.
Yeah, unless it's on Facebook.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, like, what we're trying to do here is affect some kind of a change and keep the ball in our court. Look, it's not easy and it could get ugly, but not as ugly as it will get if you're still complacent and apathetic about the situation.
Absolutely. What's coming is much worse than what you've seen so far.
Absolutely, and I agree, because you know what? History doesn't lie. This has happened 30, 40 times. If anybody wants to know, just check your history books. This isn't rocket science, people. Cultures have come and gone and failed because of the decisions made by the state.
That's right. The state is not the end-all, be-all.
Well, the
state, all-wise.
Yeah, the state could be a good thing if they, if they conform to, like, decent practice. But, unfortunately, okay, I'll give you an example. I often hear, and I've even said it myself, is that communism on paper works, but when implemented, you end up with a caste society. And it never works, because you have haves and have-nots. And it doesn't work, because then you have an elite, and then you have a non-elite. And once it divides, that's where the divide actually never gets closer. It gets wider and wider and wider, to the point of collapse.
And that's true.
Yeah.
So and that's where we're at here.
The way I see it, though, the only way that our system can be fixed is if the laws have to be rewritten throughout. I mean, on every level.
Rick, I have to politely disagree with the statement. I don't think it can be fixed. There is no fixing.
Exactly. That's kind of what my point was.
Yeah, the boat should be.
But that's not going to happen.
It should be scuttled and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. We got to build a new boat. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, the very first thing that has to happen is that that the slate has to be wiped clean across the board, all debt erased across the entire planet.
Yeah.
All
It's
debt erased.
odious. It's
Start
odious debt anyways. So you can
That's right.
declare it odious
Yeah.
and move on.
And and you know what? That's a good segue to send a shout out to Thor News with the 100-year Earth truce. Wipe all debts and let's start anew.
Start from scratch. That's right.
I mean, people are thinking. I know people are just like probably just bouncing around in their heads like mad. Like, well, you can't do that. You can't. Thing is that everything's based on nothing anyway. It's all based on fictitious numbers.
Fiat money.
It doesn't exist.
Nothing.
And the laws are conqueror laws. Conquerors that come in and establish their own mandates on the people that they say they serve over, but that they rule over. Like the people that are in office that are our servants, they're our rulers.
That's right. They don't serve us. Governments do not serve us. They're not even at the top of the ladder. They serve the people above them.
It's extortion. It's extortion. It's saying, you need this, and you can pay us X amount for it. And believe me, it'll be good. And you know they're lying through their teeth.
Right.
Anytime they open their mouth, they're lying.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the easiest way to know.
Not always, because I just heard who was it? One of the previous presidents was saying America will never have to worry about paying their debt because we can just print out the money to pay it. We'll just print out money and pay the debt.
No, they can't. America doesn't have a
pretty much
press. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and it's funny because I heard the exact same thing from a 5-year-old from a kindergarten class when presented with the issue of economic problems. The kid said, "Well, just print more money," and it's like, huh?
That's where they're getting their ideas.
And then they thought, "Hey,
right
what
out
a
of the
great idea!
Right out of the mouths of babes.
Let's do it." And that's what they did.
I mean, they're going to our kids now and seeing how to run it. That's pretty sad.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That almost reminds me of that scene in Aliens, eh? With that little girl.
Mm.
And was it Bill Paxton? He's like, "Why don't you put her in charge?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the children may run it better. Who knows? They couldn't do it. They couldn't do any worse.
They definitely could not do any worse, and I don't think the children are going to be worried about depopulating the planet. I don't think they're going to be worried about going to war. War to them would be like throwing water balloons. That'd be fun. War would be fun.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be a food fight. Give it a rest. I know, but anyway, it's just conjecture. But you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know. So okay, we'll end this shortly. I was gonna just kind of take it to basically to the point now where how would somebody go about the procedure of filing a said petition or a complaint?
What we did was we looked at the 3 branches of government and with the top of the food chain.
Right.
So we found the governor, we found the Supreme Court justices, and we found the leaders in the legislature, each house.
Uh-huh. Go on.
Latter rain is saying
Oh well, that was it on the petition. That was it on the petition. Just find the highest in we have 3 branches here, so we found the highest. That was it. We served them.
Okay. So that's at the state level, though, the highest at the state level.
Yes, which would be what, province in Canada? Is it province? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly,
Yeah.
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 So going back to your phone call, just to kind of give people a little bit of a relational kind of an idea. Um, the municipal or county level doesn't work. Why?
It doesn't work because it was created by the state level.
Right. Okay. Cool. That's
So
yeah.
the state controls it.
Yeah, and it's the same here in Canada at the provincial level. Actually, it's worse, dude. I'll tell you, it's worse. Um, some provinces have sub levels, but I'll tell you, like places like in Ontario, I'll give you an example. Like in Ontario, you have Ontario Provincial Police. Then you go down to the city level. You've got like in Hamilton, you got the Hamilton Municipal Police. In Toronto, you got the Toronto Police Force. Out here in BC though, in the West, it's all effed up, bro. Here we got the RCMP. They're the feds. They're the federal police, and we rent them out from the federal government.
Yeah, and they're active also in Ontario and every other
Oh,
province.
they're active anywhere they want to be active. They have
They're like the FBI.
there's no place without jurisdiction. It's not like the RCMP can't just go run into Ontario and arrest someone. Yeah, they totally can. They have jurisdiction anywhere across this country, which is kind of ruthless. I put them up into the mob category because they're like hired thugs, basically.
Yeah.
And they were totally utilized in the false flag at the Ottawa shooting, which we did debunk as a total psyop, total fake. And the RCMP were totally used in that. They were completely and totally used as a tool in that entire. So I don't trust anything they do.
Well, they were supposedly giving some guy CPR.
Oh,
so there was a guy leaning over, and there was cops all around them. So the camera couldn't really catch it, but
you give that guy so much room.
But then this one guy got a camera angle.
What is another shooter? What is another shooter going to come out and shoot him again? No, they would give the medical staff.
So you can see this guy.
So much room.
You can see this guy leaning over the guy and up and down, right? But then there was this one camera angle that got a shot of it, and the guy was leaning completely over the guy and pushing down on beside him.
Yeah.
And the guy had his hands on his chest. The guy that was laying there had his hands on his chest.
He's breathing and giving him chest compressions at the same time, like completely not even doing proper.
Yeah, CPR. One person's doing the breathing part. The other person's
and completely out of time. Oh, horrible mess. Like it was a mess. Like, and yet people still bought it. They still bought it, hook, line, and sinker. They thought it was a real deal. Well, a lot of people, like most average everyday Joe Blows, they were just watching like, oh my god, that's horrible.
Same as usual.
Yeah. Meanwhile, first aiders are like, that's horrible CPR, you know. Like, but yeah, I mean, yeah. I think we're going to end this year. I do want to ask everybody out there that's listening to kind of think back to why we're doing what we're doing. Think to what you want to do, what you want to see. And I mean, I'm sure you don't want this frigging government. Doesn't matter where you are. I don't care if you're in Europe. I don't care if you're here. We're all going through the same shit now. This is the effect of globalization, people, is that we're, in effect, under the same umbrella, and it's going to get worse. What's happening in Europe right now with the Syrian refugees is going to turn into a huge clusterfuck of biblical proportions, and it's going to turn the entire EU into its own. Like, it's going to become one big mosh pit, and it's going to be ruled by one. And I'm sure they're going to tie everybody else into it as well. And that's just, you know, stage by stage. They're trying to create their one world government. New World Order is 2 acts in a 4-act play. And they're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
Any words, Tom? Any words before we leave people? Like, yeah. Do you have anything to say about like anything motivational? Because this has been kind of a negative podcast in the sense of pointing out the fallacies of government and how they're fucking us over. Any positive notes? Like, how can we rise up and, like, at least motivate people, motivate ourselves, and just say, hey, we are free men and women of this planet.
Just look at what Iceland did. They said enough. They threw the bankers out, threw them in jail, erased the debt, reformed their government.
Yes.
They
Now,
said enough.
Okay. Now, having said that, thank you, Tom. That was perfect because you just segued into where I wanted to go with this. How do we go about that now? It's a granular process, yes?
Yes, I would still say grassroots, from the local level up.
From the local level up, and that means organizing with your local groups and teaming up with your neighboring cities. Start to coordinate. Look, this isn't a pipe dream to change the world. We can all just change the world. Like, we just have to, like, coordinate and start talking to your neighbors. Bust out of your shoebox. Stop not talking to your neighbors because the government says it's bad. Yeah, all this shit that they're pushing. Rat your neighbors out if you see suspicious activity. Christ, I'm gonna rat my government out because they got suspicious activity.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's just flood the hotlines with their suspicious activity.
That's right. Yeah, there's a crazy man. He's in the police precinct. Take his gun away.
They keep calling him chief or something.
Right.
Yeah, totally. But that's just it. I mean,
I don't know why. He's not even. Doesn't even look native, but they keep calling him chief. Just put him in handcuffs, will you?
Ah, man. Well, Tom.
And remember, this is what I do: is I do a little something each day, and after a month, you'd be surprised what you've accomplished. Just a little something each day.
Well, yeah, and that's true. Like everybody does their thing. I'm doing these videos now. I was on the sidelines for a number of years. Before that, I had ran bulletin board systems and had a little truther network on analog lines. And I was in the military and learned a lot of shit about how fucked up they run. But let me tell you, like, it's not difficult, and it's not rocket science. Like, it is grassroots, like Tom said. Like, all you have to do, actually, almost every major city in the North America anyway, most major cities have what's called a speaker's corner. If you look at your city map, every city has a speaker's corner, and it's a place where they used to amass and listen to someone speak. They're usually acoustically designed to carry your voice out. Hey, who cares if anyone's listening? Just get up and start talking. They might call you crazy. Call all of us crazy anyway. But the thing is you don't know until you start to try.
That's right.
At the very least, if that's what you do. Now, I know in the age of the internet, speaker's corner is rendered kind of obsolete, but going back to grassroots, that's where it starts. It starts at the local level.
There's also a lot of people that they know, they see what we're saying, they know it's true, but they do not want to get on a list. They do not want to be put on a list. They don't want to get noticed as being anti-government.
Well,
I mean, they put that fear.
You're right. And those people, I addressed them last week on our podcast. Those are the people that are on the fence. Look, I don't hate you. I just don't like the way you're going about your life because shit's fucked up and you're doing nothing about it. That, my friend, I call complicity. So please, jump off the fence and start telling your neighbors and your friends, because guess what? If you're uncomfortable being part of the minority, then create your own majority, because the majority you're part of now will kill you. Period.
That's right. You're not safe by sitting on the fence.
No,
For
no,
one thing.
you're just being saved for last.
Yeah.
Silence is agreement. If you're silent, you're agreeing with what's happening.
That's right.
And you got to realize that fear has been instilled into you through predictive programming and things like that from TV shows. This fear, the fear porn I can understand why people would be so afraid.
They're more scared of you than you are of them. Realize that.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
They are more afraid of us than we are of them.
I know even earlier in this podcast, I even said, yeah, they have the guns. Look, fear porn aside, guns or not, they don't have the numbers. They can have all the guns in the world, but if they don't have the people to pick up those guns are fucking useless. Period. So I mean, like if the people smarten up and say, hey, I'm done with this shit. Time to get a new boss.
You know how they say guns don't kill people? People do. Well, guns also don't save your family. You do. You may need a gun to do that.
I also say guns aren't stupid. People are, but hey.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I say that joking around. I don't believe people are stupid. I think every single person alive on this planet is here with his own life experiences and needs and wants. And look, there's a better world out there, and we have the capability to take it back before it goes to the next step. I mean, anyway.
The next step is when he leaves the UN, one step closer.
Yeah. Yeah. And anybody in the truther community knows that the UN is basically just a bunch of bureaucracy and bullshit combined with a false sense of hope. I learned what the UN was about back in the 90s when I was supposed to get sent to Cyprus. And while I was folding up my clothes and packing up my ruck box there, I was basically watching a politician say, we're pulling out of Cyprus after 33 years, too many accidents and this and that and blah, blah, blah. What? Now it becomes a financial issue? I thought you were trying to help people. Look, governments don't help people. People help people. That's the bottom line.
That's right. Why would you count on somebody? Yeah, why would you count on somebody in Washington to help you when you got neighbors? Or why would you wait for your government in Washington to help your neighbor when you're right there and you could help them?
Yeah.
You are what you're waiting for.
That's correct. Well, I'm going to take us out on this note and leave the listeners thinking about this. We'll follow up. We'll do another show in a couple of days. There's a couple other groups, Tom, that I'm going to introduce you to that have also done very similar things that you're doing. They've actually drafted up arrest warrants for basically every single politician and current White House executive, all the way across the states and across Canada. And yeah, I'll introduce you to these people. If we can get these writs filed and get people to back them, I'm all for it, man. And
absolutely.
You know what? You got my support, 100%, man.
Appreciate it.
Hey, anytime. Yep. And I want everyone else out there to realize that this isn't about doing a podcast for popularity or to do a show to entertain you. This is to educate you and to make you realize that we are on the precipice of change. You just have to figure out what side, and I don't like to use the term sides. You just have to figure out where you want to be at the end of this. And I think I'm going to take us out on that note. Tom, I'm going to thank you for coming here and spending your time with us. Is there anything else you'd like to say to everyone out there before, and don't go anywhere, because when I hit the offline button, we'll talk after the show as well.
Okay.
But go ahead and say whatever you want to these guys.
You've got to do something, anything at this point. Small actions every day will add up, and no one is coming to save you. Remember that.
That's correct. Rick, would you like to say something?
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Little Wing over there. She pointed me to this guy, Privatus Me Living. Privatus.me Living. It's a YouTube channel.
Yep, familiar with him. Yep.
Very, very action-oriented guy. So I'm gonna put the link to that in our description as well.
That's cool.
To his YouTube page.
Oh, and to send us out, we got Ladder Rain.
Oh,
Hey,
hey, how's it
guys.
going, Ladder?
Hey, Tom. I just
Hello.
want to send my love and my prayers to you and everybody with you. And I know it's not easy. So I just wanted to say that. I was trying to get in forever, but just wanted to go ahead and say that while you guys close out.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Well, you know who I am. This is Thomas Deegan. He's joined us. We got Rick B. Ladder Rain just joined us, but we're going to be signing out. Going to leave you guys with that to think about. All the links that we talked about will be in the description box below, and I'll follow up with another video with instructions on how to file things in whatever area that you're in, and try to give some advice. And hey, also remember, every city has a city hall. There's nothing wrong with protesting, grassroots, man, all the way. Get up, say something, be heard, be bodies, man, and get out there. There's no quick fix to this. All right? So, on that note, peace out. Take care of each other, man. Take care of each other. And, yeah, until next time.